Well, this story is a little unexpected, if I don't say so myself. The Hill is reporting, Snoop Dogg partners with Charles Koch to push federal marijuana legalization. Snoop Dogg and Charles Koch. Yeah, I forget the name of it. They called it like the Marijuana Freedom Alliance or something like that. And you have, it's not just Snoop Dogg. I think there's some other celebrities involved. And you have Charles Koch and a lot of the Koch network institutions, like Americans for Prosperity and others. So this is one of the rare areas where the Kochs happen to be correct. And what they're trying to do is form this bipartisan group that can then lobby Washington to legalize marijuana. And there's one somewhat questionable part of this, which is they say like they want to legalize marijuana, and then there's one part that's like, and have it reasonably taxed, which sort of strikes me as the Koch saying, let's not only legalize marijuana, but also keep the taxes really low. Don't make the taxes high. But I actually, I don't agree with them on that. I think that you can have some places that have legalized marijuana at the state level. They have a sort of a steep tax on it, and that really doesn't disincentivize people from purchasing it. But beyond that, a lot of the funds go to like important stuff like, potential drug rehab funding or education funding. So I'm not necessarily with that part about like reasonable taxes, which is the Trojan horse for like tax it very, very little, if at all. But in terms of the effects this will have, I actually do think this means something. Because with the Koch brothers getting in on this issue like this, what that tells me is the Capitol is now switching sides. So that was one of the parts of the gay marriage fight that a lot of people didn't know, is that behind the scenes, gay Americans, for whatever reason, are some of the wealthiest Americans. That's, when you look at the demographic breakdown, it's kind of phenomenal. It's kind of amazing. You have gay Americans have a pretty high income. And so they're politically involved and they were donating to politicians. And so in other words, you had more money on the side of being pro-gay marriage than you did on the side of the anti-gay marriage people, like, for example, the fundamentalist evangelical Christians. And when the LGBTQ side of that argument had more money, they bought more influence, and then eventually you had the politicians sort of change their mind. Now, to be fair, it was really the Supreme Court that legalized gay marriage in this country. It didn't really come from the politicians, but you saw more politicians flipping and saying they're pro-gay marriage. That came with that rise in the wealth of gay Americans and the influence that they bought. Now, that's not the only reason, but that is a good indicator usually of where the winds in this country are going. And here's another issue where previously the people who were aligned against marijuana, their pockets were deeper. There was a time when the alcohol companies were lined up against legalizing marijuana because they viewed it as competition for them. You have various government agencies like the DEA, their whole existence is dependent on drugs being illegal, and others. But now you have a lot of big money interests lining up on the side of legalizing weed. You actually have a recreational marijuana industry, a medical marijuana industry. A lot of these companies now exist. You have big money donors like the Kochs who are in this for ideological reasons. So it seems to me it's a foregone conclusion that at some point at the federal level it will become legal. I don't know when, and I don't know how it'll happen, but I think at some point it's going to become legal. I do. So I guess this is cool, but really I can't get through this story without bringing up the obvious point, which is I want marijuana to become legal because 60% of the American people want marijuana to become legal. I don't want marijuana to become legal because some asshole big money donor made the politicians do it because the politicians are corrupt. You see what I'm saying? So like, this gets to a story that we discussed previously about, the MLB getting involved in politics and Mitch McConnell saying, stay out of politics, unless I don't mean campaign contributions, those are cool. I actually would take the deal, and I want the deal of corporations out of politics, billionaires out of politics, because they do have the outsized influence, because they have the money, they buy the politicians, they do the legal bribery, they're the corrupt ones. And so Every now and then we get lucky where a big money interest is on the side that you and I happen to agree with. But again, as a matter of principle, I want them out of the system. I want marijuana legal because I think you have a right to put in your body whatever you want to put in your body as long as you're not hurting anybody else. But I also want it legal because 60% of the country wants it legal. I want the will of the people to be reflected. I don't want the will of the people to be one thing, and it's been like that for 4 or 5 years, and nothing happened at the federal level, but now they're going to switch because big money's on our side. I just hate, as a matter of principle, I want these big money interests to not control our politics anymore. But having said that, there's a rare issue where I happen to agree with them ideologically, and you're going to see the impact of it. You know, you have this bipartisan group with celebrities who are nominally on the left and right-wing billionaires who are getting together and saying, we're going to do this. And also, I mean, keep it real. I would bet a lot of money that the Koch people have invested a lot in legal weed companies. And so they want to lobby to get it legal, not just for ideological reasons, but also because they can make money when it becomes legal. So that's where we are, man. But listen, now we have California, it's legal, and now New York, it's legal. With those two powerhouses going down, it's got to be a matter of time. The snowball effect, we're too far down that hill with the snowball effect to reverse it. And so I don't know why we have to stop playing around. And also for the justice issue, the criminal justice issue, because you've had people's lives ruined over drugs. And they're not real crimes. You know what a real crime is? A violent crime. You know what a real crime is? A giant financial fraud. It's not a real crime if you're selling marijuana or smoking marijuana or even selling cocaine or doing cocaine. That's not a real crime, and people's lives have been ruined. So legalize, tax, and regulate these drugs and free all the nonviolent drug offenders. I mean, it's just, that has to be done. And wipe their records clean, expunge their records. That's the word for it, right? Expunge? I think that's the word for it. But Snoop Dogg and Charles Koch being buddy-buddy, I did not see this coming, but it's for the issue of marijuana.